Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Sunday evening, January 21, 2024. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you guys like the video, share it, subscribe and tap the notification bell so that you'll be notified every time I post a brand new video. Feel free to leave a comment down in the comment section letting me know what the weather has been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let us take a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening. We can see that for the majority of this week, we've been having these ridges of high pressure that are responsible for sending all of those easterly trade winds across the main development region in the Caribbean. And we can also see this blue line right here associated with a cold front that's situated right there to the north of Jamaica, and it is located across sections of the southern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, eastern Cuba, sections of the Cayman Islands, as well as Central America. If we take a look at the visible satellite images of the Atlantic before the sun went down, we can see those low-level patches of clouds moving from east to west in that flow of easterly trade wind across the main development region into the Caribbean, and some of these low-level clouds have some amount of isolated showers within them, usually affecting sections of the Leeward and Windward Islands. We can also see the clouds associated with that cold front stretching all the way from the northern section of the North Atlantic all the way down into portions of the southern Bahamas, Turks and Caicos, sections of Cuba, the Cayman Islands, sections of Central America, Honduras, Guatemala, Belize and the Yucatan Peninsula. We'll be talking more about the Caribbean's weather later on. Let us focus our attention on what took place across Jamaica for today. So for the past week, we've been noticing that we've been having very dry conditions, which explains the lack of videos being posted. Just to let you know, I usually take days off when it's definitely going to be quite sunny and partly cloudy. But we know when it's about to rain, that's when I usually show up. So we can see that during the afternoon hours, we had some amount of clouds coming in from the east-northeast, bringing some amount of overcast skies and isolated showers to sections of St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland, sections of Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, Gotten, and some of that, not to mention sections of Westmoreland. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before the sun went down, we can see those clouds even better, even a section of Western St. Catherine, section of Kingston and St. Andrew Gotten, and some of those clouds, bring some amount of isolated showers. And if we take a look at the latest infrared satellite images, we can see that we don't have much taking place right now, just some isolated pockets of clouds as represented by those gray colors here and there. If we take a look at the Caribbean Institute for Meteorology and Hydrology's accumulated precipitation for the past 24 hours, we can see that majority of the rainfall across the island was located across sections of Portland, sections of St. Mary and St. Anne. Not to mention sections of Westmoreland and St. Elizabeth during the afternoon hours. So that indeed confirms what we saw on the satellite images. If we take a look at the temperatures right now, we can see we have 26 degrees Celsius in Kingston, 25 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, and by about 3 a.m. on Monday morning, the temperature should dip down to about 24 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston. As it relates to the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is showing 18 on Monday. When we calculate that, that's about 1 p.m. on Monday, and we see Jamaica right here embedded in some yellows and some slight orange colors. And we can see that by the key on the right, these yellows and slight orange colors are representative of 1 to 2 degrees Celsius above average temperatures. And we know the average temperatures for the month of January across Jamaica are about the same as 86.5 degrees Fahrenheit. That's about the equivalent of 30 degrees Celsius when we take a look at the thermometer. So if we should be receiving 2 degrees Celsius above normal temperatures for Monday, it should be anywhere from 30 to 32 degrees Celsius at most. As it relates to the dry air map, we can see that the dry air is represented by the yellows, oranges and reds on the key on the bottom of this map. And we can see that Jamaica is still embedded in a lot of dry air surrounding the island, which explains the lack of rainfall. We usually see the most dry air during this time period, the dry season, January through to March. And this should continue. However, as it relates to the Saharan dust forecast, some people usually get these maps mixed up. This is actually the dry air map, while this is the Saharan dust map. And this is the forecast for 2 p.m. on Monday, and we do see the browns that represent the Sahara Desert. It's dust across the eastern portions of the main development region, not to mention sections of Africa. 2 p.m. on Monday has Jamaica and majority of the Caribbean in the clear. As it relates to the wave forecast for Monday, we do see a lot of purple colors, especially on the north coast, surrounding the island, yes, on the Euro, but more so closer to the northern coastal areas. And that's because the winds are going to be very strong. And we know that the purples represent anywhere from 2-meter wave heights or more, 2 to 3-meter wave heights. And that's because the winds are going to be strong. We can see the yellows right there surrounding the island, definitely coming in from the northeast. And these yellows, as we can see by the key on the bottom right, are representative of 25 knot winds. We know the greens represent 20 knot winds, but we can see that the north coast of Jamaica is definitely going to be getting in on the strongest winds tomorrow, coming in from the northeast. And we can see that both the Euro model and the GFS models are in consensus with this. And we know that with the strong northeasterly trade winds comes the relief rainfall. And we know that relief rainfall has to do with the prevailing winds from the northeast. And then we have all of those winds, rising and forming clouds. And then we have the condensation. We have all of this rainfall on the northern side of the island, the Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne side. Then we get into the interior section of the island where we have the highest hills or mountains. And then, as usual, the southern side of the island has the rain shadow where we have the least amount of rainfall. So we usually experience this during the dry season. Majority of the winds coming in from the northeast, majority of the rainfall taking place on the north coast, while the south side of the island is usually drier. And this map definitely explains all of the orographic precipitation that we've been experiencing, especially across sections of Portland and St. Mary. So definitely we're in for a lot more rainfall across sections of Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, St. James, sections of maybe Hanover. And who knows, some of this rainfall could spill into sections of some southern parishes, more so some northern areas of some southern parishes. So we can rule out some isolated shores across sections of northern St. Catherine, northern St. Andrew, northern St. Thomas. Definitely eastern St. Thomas might get in on some of that. So we'll incorporate some of these eastern parishes in that rainfall forecast. And if we actually take a look at the actual rainfall that's expected, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS is showing 1 a.m. on Monday. And where do we see the blues that represent rainfall? Across those various spots that we mentioned, sections of northern Jamaica, so definitely section of Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. And we're looking for a consensus. We're looking for where we see the rainfall being shown on both the Euro and the GFS models. And we do see that for northeastern Jamaica at that time, that's 1 a.m. Skipping ahead now to about 5 a.m. on both the Euro and the GFS models, we see much of the same. Sections of St. Thomas, Portland, St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney, sections of St. James getting in on the action. Then skipping ahead to about 9 a.m., that's 4 hours later again, we still see much of the same. More of that rainfall across sections of northern, more so northeastern parishes in Jamaica. Much of the same taking place at 1 p.m. Another 4 hours later, you are starting to incorporate more of the southern and western portions of the island in some of that rainfall. GFS, not so much. I'm more inclined to believe what the Euro is showing. We could have some of these stray clouds from the north spilling into sections of some southern parishes, maybe sections of Western, St. Catherine, Clarendon, Manchester, St. Elizabeth, and Westmoreland might get in on somewhat of isolated afternoon shower. Then we can see that by about 5 p.m. we still have some blues that represent rainfall, still dotting sections of some northern parishes, Trelawney, St. Anne, St. Mary, Portland. And we see that both the Euro and the GFS models are in consensus with this. So that indeed gives us some amount of certainty in what's forecasted. And we can also see that the accumulated precipitation forecast from the Euro and the GFS models are making sense in that they're showing that the most rainfall that we're going to be getting within the next 24 hours from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday are definitely confined to the section of northern Jamaica. We do see most of the rainfall totals going up to 0.66 of an inch of rainfall on the Euro across northeastern Jamaica. With all of these colors, we know the more colorful it gets, the more rainfall that's expected. GFS is a bit more robust, showing almost an inch of rainfall across sections of northeastern Jamaica. So we'll see exactly what unfolds. We know how these things go with all of the orographic rainfall, the relief rainfall that's expected coming in from the northeast. And it will definitely feel warmer than normal, especially during the morning hours across sections of some southern and western parishes. Either way, we'll take all the rainfall that we can get. We're in the month of January. We usually receive up to 97.75 millimeters of rainfall during this month across Jamaica. So we'll take all the rainfall that we can get before we head into the month of February. We know February is the driest month of the year across Jamaica. That's definitely the peak of the fire season, when we have more of those fire trucks going up and down, putting out all of those brush and bush fires, not to mention some of these affecting some buildings and homes. So yes, we'll take all the rainfall that we can get to put a dent in the hydrological drought that we're going to be experiencing. Yes, there's definitely going to be a hydrological drought. It's only a matter of time before the National Water Commission says that some water restrictions have to be imposed. Alright, so that's it for the forecast across Jamaica. Let us focus our attention on the rest of the Caribbean. So as stated, we have the clouds associated with the cold front, bringing overcast skies as well as some rainfall to sections of the Bahamas, sections of eastern Florida, Turks and Caicos, sections of Cuba, the Cayman Islands, Belize, sections of Guatemala, Honduras, Mexico. You can also see some low-level patches of clouds moving into sections of the Windward Islands as usual, Barbados, sections of Martinique, St. Lucia, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, sections of Trinidad and Tobago, not to mention sections of French Guiana, Suriname, Guyana, sections of eastern Venezuela, Colombia as usual. And if we take a look at the Doppler radar images of the northeastern Caribbean, we know Doppler radar images actually show the rainfall that we see on the satellite images. We can have cloud cover over an area that we see on the satellite images and not necessarily rainfall. And we can see that majority of the Leeward Islands was in the clear for most of the day today. There's some isolated spots of showers to the east of Antigua and Barbuda with those greens. But as it relates to the Barbados radar, we do see that rainfall that we just saw on the satellite images pushing from east to west. More so some isolated heat or mist showers. Definitely a section of Barbados getting in on some of the action coming in from the east, not to mention sections of Martinique, St. Lucia, sections of St. Vincent, the Grenadine Islands definitely getting in on some of the isolated shower activity, not to mention maybe a section of Tobago later on tonight. If we take a look at the wider view of Doppler radar images, we can see all of that rainfall that I just mentioned across sections of French Guiana, sections of Belize, sections of Guatemala and Mexico right there. However, as relates to the temperature forecast, we do see that majority of the Caribbean should be getting in on some average to above average temperatures as represented by those yellows and oranges, while below average temperatures associated with the backside of that cold front are expected across sections of Cuba, Belize, the Bahamas, sections of Florida and the southeastern United States. If we take a look at the Sahara and dust forecast, we can see that Monday at 2 p.m. has majority of the Caribbean in the clear, as all the dust associated with the Sahara Desert should be across sections of the eastern main development region. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, we can see that we have more so in the way of purples, burgundies and reds that represent 2 to 4 to even close to 6 meter wave heights, especially in the waters to the far south of Jamaica. That's because it's definitely going to be quite windy, so definitely 2 meter wave height or more. The Bahamas, Western Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, the waters in and around Jamaica to the north of Panama and Colombia, the waters to the east of the Caribbean, and we see that both the Euro and the JFS models are in consensus with this. And that's because the winds are going to be strongest where we have those high wave heights. It makes sense. We see the strong winds represented by the yellows, the gold, the burgundy colors right here, coming in from the east, northeast for the most part across the eastern Caribbean, coming in from the northeast across sections of the Greater Antilles, and we can see the yellows to mention to represent the 25 knot winds or more. And we see that on both the Euro and the GFS modes. I know that when we're looking for certainty, we're looking for what both of the maps are showing. As relates to the rainfall forecast that is expected for the next 24 hours, keep in mind that these maps from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until 10 p.m. on Monday. We do see the yellows and the reds that represent close to up to 1 inch of rainfall across sections of Belize, sections of Mexico that are already receiving rainfall, Honduras, sections of the Cayman Islands getting in on the greens that represent isolated showers, sections of northeastern Cuba, sections of the Bahamas, northern Haiti and the Dominican Republic getting in on some of the action, maybe sections of southern Puerto Rico. You can also see some rainfall expected, if they're not already getting that rainfall, across sections of St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia, Martinique, Barbados, not to mention sections of Trinidad and Tobago, eastern Venezuela, northern Guyana as well. You can also see some rainfall across sections of northwestern Panama, eastern Costa Rica, and eastern Nicaragua too. I know that when both maps from the Euro and the GFS are in consensus like this, the chances of it actually happening are much higher. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.